Multi-year wait list, gray market prices double and now triple that of retail. A bezel colorway so iconic it has been copied more times than I can count. A watch that once you hold it in your hand, you just immediately get it. Today we are taking a look at what is at the moment the fastest appreciating sports watch in the entire world, and it's not even close. To put it in perspective, if you were one of the lucky ones that owned this watch for more than, say, a month or so, congratulations, because over the last few weeks, it has made you 10 grand richer. This is the Rolex GMT-Master II, better known as the Pepsi. Recently discontinued. If you are one of the ones that have been on the waiting list to purchase this watch over the last 8 years, well, you are out of luck. Full disclosure, I can't even believe that I'm wearing one, let alone that my friend Alex would be crazy enough to loan it to me for a few weeks. And to be even a little bit more honest, I can't even believe that I was crazy enough to accept. But either way, Alex, thank you so much, man, for trusting me with this watch. And just please know that I know what it took for you to do that. And I feel the same way about you, man. So as stated earlier, this is the Pepsi, and I'm about to walk you through 72 years, starting with the year 1954, when Pan American Airways realized they had a problem. Transatlantic flights were taking their pilots across 5, 6, even 7 time zones in a single shift, and the existing wristwatches just weren't cutting it. To fix the issue, Pan Am turned to Rolex, and Rolex answered the call with the first ever GMT as we know it today, reference 6542. And yes, I know, Glycine was actually the first to release a watch built to track multiple time zones with their 1953 release of the Airman that had a 24-hour bezel. But it was the 6542 that introduced the GMT as we know it today, with the fourth hand pointing to a second time zone. And here's the move. Rolex split the bezel into 2 colors used for tracking whether it was day or night. I always assumed that this was kind of marketing BS, and I also thought that it was really done to match Pan Am's colors, which in my mind were 1000% blue and red on white. But it turns out there was no red in Pan Am's colors, and in fact, it was only blue on white. Also turns out that there is a science in color coding where the mind can compute colors much faster than it can numbers. So the blue and red actually checks out. Speaking of science, on the original 6542, the bezel inserts were made of a material called Bakelite that had radium painted numerals that turned out to be just mildly radioactive. Rolex actually recalled all of them and replaced the inserts with anodized aluminum. Today, people will pay well into the 6 figures for an original Bakelite version, radium and all. And here's another fun fact. The 6542 was the first ever wristwatch to have factory fitted inlinks. Come 1959, Rolex replaced the 6542 with reference 1675. The reference most people think of when they think of a vintage Pepsi. In production from 1959 all the way through 1960, the 1675 introduced crown guards and a slightly larger case, bumping it from its original 38mm up to 40. Along its 2-decade run, the 1675 accumulated more dial and bezel variations than almost any Rolex in history. Dials with gilt or gold printing, matte dials with white text, different fonts on the bezel, the famous long E where the middle line of the E in the word Rolex is as long as the top and the bottom. Oh, and here is one more gold nugget to store in your memory bank for the next time you are debating with an Omega guy and they pull out the moon history. You can hit them with the fact that the 1675 has also been to the moon when worn by astronaut Edgar Mitchell during the Apollo 14 mission. Mitchell wore his NASA-provided Speedmaster on his left wrist while wearing his personal GMT Master on his right. That watch recently sold at auction last year, I believe, for $2.1 million. 1981, Rolex releases 16750 with caliber 3075, now having a quick set date and a higher beat rate. 1988's reference 16700 brings a sapphire crystal in place of the acrylic. White gold hour markers, and this one is very significant. It would be the last GMT Master, because 1 year later, Rolex would release the GMT-Master II reference 16710. For the first time ever, the local hour hand could be set independently of the GMT hand. Land in a new city, jump the local hour forward without losing your home time. This is the moment the GMT Master stops being a second time zone display and starts becoming a real traveler's tool. The 16710 has an 18-year run, and by the time it ends in 2007, the aluminum Pepsi bezel replaced with Rolex's new Cerachrome ceramic. Nearly scratch-proof and UV-resistant, the new ceramic basically indestructible with one small problem. In 2007, they can't manufacture it in red, which means when the new 16710 drops, the Pepsi gone from the steel lineup. It would be 7 years before Rolex would bring back the Pepsi bezel, when in 2014 they dropped reference 116719 BLRO. The BLRO, blue and rouge. Rolex faced an extremely high failure rate when producing the red and blue in ceramic and opted to go with precious metal, knowing that at 39,000, the demand would be a little bit less, giving them some time to perfect the process. It would be 4 more years before Rolex would release a steel version, when in 2018, they released the 126710, a steel version ceramic Pepsi on Jubilee, powered by the new caliber 3285, which boasted 70 hours of power reserve. The watch my friend Alex was gracious enough to allow me to share with you today. The moment it dropped, the entire watch world lost their mind. Authorized dealer waiting lists stretched out into multi-year purgatory. Gray market prices through the roof. People were getting added to lists that they were told up front would never come to light. For 8 straight years, the steel ceramic Pepsi was arguably the single most impossible watch to buy at retail anywhere in the world. Well, I have heard that the Royal Oak is a little bit tough to get as well, but retail at launch in 2018, $9,700. $9,700 for a watch that was selling on the gray market for 20 grand. Well, that was until April 14th, 2026, when after long rumored, Rolex quietly, and by quietly, I mean quietly, no fanfare, no farewell edition, no commemorative anything. They just pulled the Pepsi, steel and white gold, from their lineup. The reason for the discontinuation, in reality, no one knows. But the most plausible reason, probably the bezel, as producing a vibrant red in ceramic is extremely complicated. And to pull it off, Rolex had to do away with the zirconia that they use in all of their ceramic bezels and instead uses alumina, which makes the Pepsi bezel half as dense and 4 times more brittle than all the other bezels in the Rolex lineup. No one knows the actual numbers, but if you run a quick search on the failure rate, it looks like Rolex was discarding about 70% of the bezels that they were producing. Oh, and by the way, that is after the 40 plus hours that it took to produce one. The bezel starts its life as what Rolex calls the green body, having already been infused with chromium oxide, the same compound that differentiates a sapphire from a ruby by turning it red. The process ensures that the entire bezel will turn red during baking, but before the bezel hits the furnace, half again is chemically treated to turn blue during the 1600 degrees Celsius 24-hour baking process. And here is a cool feature due to the way it's produced. Put the bezel under a UV and the blue disappears, turning the entire bezel red. Now, how cool is that? So here's the question that I have been turning over and over in my head while putting this video together. This is only the second time since 1954 that the red and blue bezel has disappeared from the Rolex lineup. The first time, as you just heard, it took them 7 years to bring it back. This time, the market reaction was instant. A used Pepsi that was trading around 18 to 20 grand last year is now pushing $25,000 to $30,000 and climbing. No bullshit, this watch is appreciating in real time as I'm recording this video. So does the Pepsi come back? Well, I can tell you this. In 2023, Rolex filed a patent for the process of producing red in zirconia. Proof of concept, the 100-year anniversary Rolex Daytona Le Mans with the 100 on the bezel in red. So my bet is yes, but either way, I do know one thing. If you're sitting there wishing that you had one of these, then get in line because the Pepsi has officially became a grail. Alex, bro, thank you, man. I can't tell you what it means to me that you would trust me with your watch, and just know that I truly, truly appreciate it. For everyone else, thank you so much for watching. If you want to show me some love, hit that subscribe button. I'm James. This is Blue Collar Luxe, and I will see you in the next one.